Welcome to the Reflector Reflections, where we journey through the kaleidoscope of human design, gene keys, astrology, and metaphysics. In this series, we're shining a spotlight on the inspiring voices of the human design community right down here in the land down under. Together, we'll celebrate the incredible work they do while diving into how they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today, I am joined by the beautiful Yvette Mayer. Yvette is a seasoned marketing and advertising professional with over 30 years of experience. She's also the creator of the Human Design for Marketing system and is recognised for her ability to elevate clients' frequencies and unlock their magnetic personal brands. Yvette is a sacral generator. She's a 5-1 in Human Design with the left angle cross of wishes. And with that, she embodies leadership, deep learning, and an infectious energy, and shares that with those she works with. Not only that, but Yvette, gee, you've got a long list here, Yvette. I was thinking about it. But anyway, not only with that, you do a monthly...
now? Do you want to stop?
No, I love it. You do a monthly transit tracking podcast with Emma, which is so beneficial. And I'm also really excited to announce that beyond this and the fact that she is a professional speaker, she's also joining us at our second Human Design conference in May next year. So I'm really, really excited.
I'm super excited as well.
Yeah.
I know I wrote most of that, but what a spectacular introduction. Thanks.
I was like, I can't shorten that because that's really good.
Oh, bless. No, I'm like, can you now? No. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here and just to feel into your openness and what comes up during this conversation. I think it's going to be magical.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Before we get into that though, I want to take us back. Like, this is what I do in this podcast, but this is not about reflectors. But it is about you. And so I want to start us off with that question. How did you find human design, or human design find you?
Yeah, so Emma Dunwoody is the short answer. The longer answer is back in 2018, I had resigned from my 30-year-long corporate career, and destination was some form of online / well-being, I don't know, business. I just have to get out of here. Yeah. I had breast cancer when I was 39, which was almost 10 years before that moment, and I'd been gearing myself up to do something different. I wasn't fulfilled. It wasn't satisfying me. I did not feel lit up. And so I was, longish story, but I was in New York for 5 years after breast cancer. I thought that was it, that I would not come back from New York into another job, but I ended up getting headhunted. So I got headhunted back to an even bigger job here. And that was the straw that broke me. Like, that particular role was, I think within 6 months, I knew. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I have to find the next thing. I actually started selling doTERRA essential oils at that time. Yeah. And it opened my eyes to this community of women who had left careers or were mum lifing and building businesses on the side and using social media to all of this stuff. So that actually gave me the confidence ultimately to resign, which happened 18 months back into the country. And it also got me out of my own way. Like, in this, like, network marketing is quite hard, where you're putting the future of yourself and your happiness as a priority and getting out through the resistance of, I don't want to sell something to people, like, this is really hard, and you're just continually doing that. And so in that process, I actually met Emma Dunwoody. She was at a class that I ran. She knew my sister-in-law. Yeah, I know, random, right? Yeah. And then after that, she followed up with me because she was interested in doing the business. And so we met up to talk about that. She started sharing how she just started studying human design, and she was like so excited about it. And I was in this place of having resigned, doing the doTERRA thing, not a whole heap of clarity around what I was doing next. quite deep pockets at that point in my life too, I might add. I'm like, of course, sign me up for one of those readings. Absolutely. So that's how I came across it. Another fun fact is I was seeing a kinesiologist through this time, and I'd already come up with the words that I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do beyond corporate, but I knew that I wanted to feel lit up and liberated. So I'd come up with this, like, that's what I'm going for. So when I did do my reading with Emma, and I was one of her very first, of course, when she's like, oh, you're actually here to only do things that light you up, I'm like, what is this craziness? This is exactly what I know that I want to do. So that's my human design intro story. Yeah.
I love that. There's a person who I have been around for a couple of years, and she also had her first reading with Emma. So it's like, what do they say? That's 6 degrees of separation or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's something that it really stands out for me when I hear these stories of us in the journey, and
Mm,
not to throw like age at it, but it is an age thing. I
mm,
always have felt that generators can be the most burnt out because
yeah,
it's like you guys just don't know how to stop. But
yeah.
also hearing that about your life story, there's something to do with us when we start to get towards 40. It's
Hmm.
like we can't, the body, that saying, the body keeps score. It's like I
Yeah,
hear it time and time again, and it's just
yeah.
like, if you don't stop, I'm going to force you to stop.
Oh, yeah, I got forced. Or
Yeah.
at least I got forced to reevaluate.
Yeah. That would
And
have
I'm,
been a
you know,
huge shift.
of course, I'm not glad I had breast cancer, but there's a lot of gratitude for the redefinition of my life that has been post breast cancer.
Yeah. It's like a rejourneying, isn't it? When you're going
Yeah,
back to having, and I guess it also makes you question in a way success because you've worked
100%.
this way, and then all of a sudden it's just like, well, I can't do that anymore. And I'm sure that met with so many challenges for you because it would have meant.
Yeah, look, leaving my career when I was at the top of the corporate ladder, like that was pretty unheard of in the industry that I was in.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I think people still think that I may be crazy because I was running a 300-person business. It was a role beyond what I ever expected for myself and gives you a really high profile, feeds your ego. There's all the trappings that come with that kind of role as well around travel and entertainment. And like, there's just so much that goes with it. And yet I felt like it was sucking me dry, like soul destroying. And I think that if I hadn't been through breast cancer, maybe I would have just put up with that because of the upside.
Mm. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
And after that, I guess this is a huge pivot in your life.
Yeah.
What did you do with the information from human design? Because I
Yeah.
know from a reflector point of view, it's like, you're telling me I got to wait a fucking lunar cycle, And I guess for you guys,
Yeah. Yeah.
here's the Aussie coming out, but it's just
Yeah.
like, well, you've got to tap into your sacral and, you've got to learn all of this yes, no stuff that you've probably ignored. Can you
Yeah.
share with me how that felt for you?
Yeah. Look, I the way that I came into it is probably unusual in that I had no research in between saying yes to Emma and having my reading. Like it wasn't like I discovered human design and I felt so seen that I went down this rabbit hole. That's just not my journey. My
Yeah.
journey is, oh, that sounds cool. I'll book a reading.
Yeah.
And then, showing up and it was funny. We met in a cafe. It was too noisy. We ended up sitting in the back seat of her car with a laptop on our laps.
Oh, this is great.
And I think that for me, it was a lot of validation and reconfirmation of what I already knew to be true. Like I said to you, I'd already knew that I did not want to be stuck or drained anymore, that I wanted to do things that made me feel lit up. I already knew that I wanted to be free and feel liberated. And, now like in that reading, we didn't get into things like my personality moon is in the 55. And I'm like, it's right there, but, that's a much more advanced level. So I think what I probably took away was the gut feel. It's like, oh, that gut feel, I actually don't have to think about things. I just know. So it's just permission.
Yeah.
Permission to not think about things. That was the first one. The second was that I needed to do things that lit me up. So obviously that was a no-brainer. The third, that I'm a 5-1, so easy for me to get on board with because of the leadership roles that I'd always had in life. I could so see myself in like some of my unresourceful behavior in my corporate career was if somebody couldn't do something, I was so worried about them like working too hard or staying too late that instead of teaching them how to do things, I would do it. Such a generator, 5-1 behavior, right? It's like, let me do it, it'll be quicker. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so me. And then, with the line one, look, research, yes, but I have just always been somebody who can figure anything out. It's more like that investigator thing for me. It's like catch anyone out that's cheating. If someone's worried about their husband, like I'm like private eye. So all of that was just stuff I knew about myself. It was more like, yes, 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 yes. The one area that I had this difference around was when she looked at my chart and said, look, you're so close to being a reflector because these two centers you have are both unconscious. So you're going to like consciously not even necessarily relate to everything that I'm telling you. And then I kind of went away and we had another conversation after she explained to me what that could look like. And that just had such a profound effect on me because what I'd observed in myself, and whether or not you can see this as well, is that I was a real shapeshifter in my career, like massive shapeshifter. I'm actually less like it now, but it was almost like I people pleased shapeshifted my way so that I would be a different version of myself depending on who was in the room with me. So I would feel into the energy of the room and respond in alignment with their energy, not who I really am. And so there was all these other layers, and that came up really quickly. And right back then, I know she coined the term demi reflector because she's like, oh my God, everything you're saying, that is reflector language.
Yeah.
So that was fascinating, that piece as well.
We have a little bit of history with the demi reflector thing, and no shade on you guys at all. It gets thrown around a lot where people split their charts, and I think
Yeah.
I came out guns blazing in my fifth line heresy, and Emma's like, "Yeah, that was me," and but
Yeah.
the interesting thing is, I have not. Well, that's not true. I have seen your chart because we printed your
Yeah.
lanyards, but I have not really consciously looked at your chart until this morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just for those listening at home, Yvette only has one channel, and it's the beat, and
Yeah.
it's all red. So what we're saying here,
You can kind of see how she got this like
yeah, yeah,
interesting chart. Yeah.
and it does make a lot of sense when you look at it like that, because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you're a generator, but this is
But
the
unconsciously,
unconscious,
yeah, like I'm a generator, but consciously I have reflector tendencies.
right?
No,
Yeah,
I'm not a generator and I'm not a reflector. Like that's not, none of that is the case. It's more the nuances in how my energy works. And also what I'm aware of versus what I've had to learn. Like I've actually had to condition myself to be more of a generator in
yeah,
some ways.
yeah. Yeah, I can really see that. That's why it was a big hit home for me, looking at it going, holy fuck. Like
Yeah.
I saw that, and then I was like, I was having a little hee hee about that whole demi reflector
Yeah.
stuff, and I
Yeah,
went,
get it.
well, in
Yeah.
your case, it really is. It's
Yeah.
your chart is very unique in that aspect, and it's like cool.
I know. I mean, like it's a fact that I have a lot of energy, but I only have one motor center. Well, I've only got two defined centers anyway, but I've only got one motor center. And what I find is I am all go and then I run out and I can run out pretty early in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I'm all no. No.
You're all no.
Talk to me, don't like just leave me alone.
Do you find, I know for me, like I'm nearly 50.
Yeah.
I have found just through the traversing of my 40s, I am really a lot more aware of my unconscious tendencies than
Mm,
ever before. And I see it in a lot of people in their 60s and even in their 70s where once they start really wanting to get to know themselves more,
yeah.
do you find that as well that you're kind of you really
Yeah.
are sort of tapping into more of that first line and a little
Yeah.
bit more of that the unconscious sides of who truly
Yeah.
you feel?
Yeah, I think that this awareness that human design brings is such a gift because it's things that are in you. It's not that they're not there. And so when you have that awareness that they're in you, you start to lean into those things more so. And it doesn't solve for everything. Like we've still got our shadows and blocks, they don't go. It's just we're more aware when they show up.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose for you, like operating in that high capacity, that level of burnout, having
Yeah.
that 5-1, it's
Yeah.
like shit. You could see it.
Yeah.
You can't unsee it.
Yeah. Yeah. And gosh, I mean, the signs were there earlier than breast cancer. Honestly, I had a major anxiety disorder in my late 20s after I'd already been in my career for 10 years. Like I left high school, went straight into an ad agency at 17, worked my way up to like a senior position, like head of clients for a particular group of clients, team of, I don't know, five, seven, something like that. People, I'm managing people interstate, the whole thing. And then I started having panic attacks. And at that time, I was also partying a lot
Mm.
and working around the clock. And I had major, major anxiety disorder, had to take time off work, go and see a psychiatrist, get on anti-anxiety medication. Like it was the full festival. And at that time, I thought, I can't do this career. Like, I can't do this career. I'm never doing this again. I'm going backpacking. So once I kind of healed enough, I took off and went to live in London, well, via a lot of Asian backpacking and time in London, traveled around Europe. But the funny part of this story is once I got to London, I tried to make money being a casual, like, secretary or receptionist. I was so bad at it that I ended up going and knocking on the door of the ad agency that I'd worked for back in Sydney's and saying, if you got any, it doesn't need to be senior. I just need to like be active, brain, money. And so I started working there, ended up staying there on and off for 2 years and realized that it was the job I'd been in versus the whole career that had really led me down
Yeah.
this burnt out road. And so that rescued my career the first time. And then I ended up, it did make me very careful when I came back to Australia that I didn't take the job with the most pressure and the highest pay package. I
Yeah.
actually went for um, better the devil you know. Like I got some contract work, got into a smaller agency, got to know the people, really liked them. They wanted me to stay, got a bigger offer elsewhere, and ended up saying no to that other offer and staying where I was. So that was like the whole first burnout experience.
Yeah.
But then, of course, once I got back into it, found my feet again, I'm straight back onto the career ladder going all the way.
Yeah.
And only for 10 years later to have the ultimate health breakdown.
Do you find a bit of that, obviously, with you have a lot of open or undefined centers,
Yeah.
but that open will center, you've got a completely open will there. Do you find that that has played out in that theme of
I wonder
having to
if
prove?
it's part of why I kept wanting to prove myself. Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely had issues with my self-confidence and self-worth growing up. Like back in my teenage years, it was atrocious. And even, having experience with anxiety as well, often fueled by self-hatred and not being like confident in my social skills and things like that. So I suspect that the validation that my career gave me, and not just in terms of people thinking I'm amazing, but getting that kind of salary and responsibility, that's a lot of validation on its own. Like to actually have, I was going to say the universe, but people saying we want her to run this company, like that gives you a lot of esteem.
Did you find as well that that fifth line of ours, 5-1 to 5-1,
Yeah.
it can come with a lot of that where we kind of get thrown at that, like, here you go. Oh, Annie can do it, Yvette can do it. Yep, go for it. No, we want her to do it. And
Yeah.
it's like there's the projection field right there. It's not that we can't do it, but all of a sudden you're like, ah, fuck. And then the pressure.
Yeah.
And if you make a, did you make mistakes and they ripped you down? How did that work for you with that fifth
Oh.
line?
It's
Ripped you
really
down's a bit
interesting.
dramatic.
I'm sure, yes, but when you were talking, you brought back a lot more around. See, my approach to my career wasn't one of high ambition. It was always surprise that they've promoted me again. You're not going to believe it. They've promoted me again. Always, right? And this is from when I was an assistant.
Yeah.
And I'd have this like small level of ambitions, which was if I could just get to the level above where I am now, I'm done. I don't need to go any further. Like I made it. And that happened 250 times now, but like 10 times that happened that I'd be like, I thought I'd made it. And then I'd get the next and the next. And I guess that was projection, people saying, we see you here. So like we're
Yeah.
going to keep developing you. Like I got leadership coaches from my early 30s all the way through because there was always this bigger leadership push towards where they saw me going.
Yeah.
So there was that. Mistakes, I don't recall making a lot of mistakes in the like high flying phase of my career. And maybe that's because you stop being in the detail so much and you're more, I'm a very natural leader. You'll see I've got a prominent 31. And so probably my superpower was bringing people into the vision and empowering them and being that kind of the kind of leader that is not about ego, but is about championing and creating that vision. And that doesn't require as much of the detail work where mistakes get made, things get
Mm,
dropped.
good point.
But I will say this, in my last 18 months in that role that I ultimately left, I had a very, very strong female boss who was much younger than me, high flying super genius, like so smart. And she was actually a friend before she was my boss. But when I came to work for her, I felt thoroughly intimidated, undermined, and that I could do nothing right. And that really broke me.
Mm. Do you have you found that as well with that fifth line that there's often the saying we work best with strangers if they're too close to us sometimes then and because I found that and I've actually
Maybe she'd met me socially and projected onto me
yep,
what she thought I could be, and it wasn't who I am.
yeah, and if you've got that
Yes.
reflector nature it's just like wow, it, pretty much a unconscious walking mirror beside you. It's like
Yeah, it
hi,
was really hard. And even to this day, she's doing brilliantly in her
yeah,
career. And it confounds me because of how difficult I found it to be led by her.
yeah. At what point did you? I was just listening to your story there as well, and I was reflecting even on a little bit of my journey because I was in corporate as well, and I just found that once I got to a certain level, just hearing you say that, they wanted to keep pushing me up as well. But I found that being at the top was never my thing. I like to just sit behind somebody, again, not knowing that I'm a reflector, and that's my rightful place in the world. Just kind of sitting back like the
Yeah.
old Pumbaa in the corner, just going, ah, now
Yeah.
you
This is
come to me.
familiar.
And it was like, but you put me in the spotlight too much, and it was very uncomfortable.
Mm.
It's funny what we know innately about ourselves, but we don't allow ourselves to kind of like follow it because of conditioning, I suppose, isn't it? But
Yeah, but I will say, just you asked me about the undefined will center before.
yeah,
I do think maybe that boss of mine was triggering my ego a bit too, because she had projected onto me that I could do this role. She literally begged me to return from New York for this job.
yeah,
And to then feel like I was failing at that, and to have her who was 10 years younger than me as my CEO, like that was really hard for my ego.
I bet.
Not that anyone else outside her and I were in that. Like from an outside perspective, I was kicking goals, but in that, I felt it.
Yeah, fair enough too.
Yeah, it was hard.
At
And
what
also a
point?
blessing because it got me out of there.
Well, I was just about to say that. At what point then did you just? I mean, we've traversed this, and you've left corporate. And now I've seen the work that you've done over the last year with human
Yeah,
design on your website and stuff like that, and on your
yeah.
YouTube. Like, I don't know, we're going to share these links, but go and check it out. But at what point did you go full on in a little bit more with human design? Like, where did this now
It's such
shift?
a process. It was. So I did the reading in 2018. I then left my job and started building a business, which evolved into a coaching business, which wasn't my initial plan, but that's what happened. It evolved into a coaching business. Emma and I formed a stronger and stronger relationship during this time. And then after 1 year, I had quite a few clients, but I was struggling with my self-worth, that old thing again. And
Oh, chestnut.
yeah, yeah. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. My money's running out because I had a lot of savings in the beginning. And I felt like I kept tapping Emma for support. And in the end, I just said, can I like hire you as my coach? Uh, I always get to that point with people where I feel like if I'm leaning on them too much, I need to pay them. So that's what happened. And so I worked with her for 6 months as a behavioral coach, but also integrating human design into the work we did, which was fantastic. And it actually took me to the point where I realized that I'd been coaching, life coaching, career coaching, health coaching, and business coaching. Basically, if you worked in corporate, I was marketing myself on LinkedIn. If you worked in corporate and you desired change, I could help you.
Yeah.
So that only got me so far. And I was in a call with Emma when she reflected back to me that when I talked about this one program I'd built, which was about happiness, versus another program that I built, which was to help people start up their online business, that my energy was completely different. And she said,
Yeah.
when you talk business, you're radiant, like you light up, your confidence explodes. And she said, what would it mean for you to not sell that other program anymore? And there was like the initial, like, but I put so much work into building that. And then straight after that, I went, I'd feel relieved.
Yeah.
So that was a big defining moment. And like the next day, I shut down everything else and only became a business coach, 100% all in. My business tripled financially within months as because I have this huge amount of credibility in business and
Yeah.
marketing. So that happened. And then I want to say the following year, or it could have even been later that same year, she had started running her mastermind to certify human design readers. By then, I had business coaching clients. It was actually later that same year. So it would have been 2020. Yeah, 2020. And she said, how about you do this as a way of understanding your clients better? And so I ended up doing that program and becoming certified in late 2020. I have to be honest and say I was so obsessed. I am a pure generator when I'm a generator. I was so obsessed with becoming the best business coach ever that it was nice to learn the human design side, but it didn't infiltrate my way of working to a
Mm.
deep degree. What I did with it is each time a new private client started working with me, I'd run their chart. and it would really help me understand them. But I didn't go to them and say, do you want a reading?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that was that piece. And then it was 2 years after that when my business, which had been focused on helping women primarily build digital products, was not thriving, not doing as well as it had been during the heady days of COVID when things were selling
Yeah.
abundantly. I got COVID around this time. I decided that it was all too hard and why don't I just give this away? Like I'm struggling. Like being a business coach, if you're not getting a lot of clients through, you start to doubt your ability as a business
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
Like, who am I to do this? And then I had like the full breakdown before the breakthrough, which was when I discovered that I really made my number one metric of success how much money I made every month.
Yeah.
And so when that number dropped, I thought that I was failing when actually I didn't leave my corporate career to make money at all. Like I always knew that it was a stretch to think that I would replace my corporate salary. It was big.
Mm.
And I just wanted to be happy. I remember when I left, I said, if I could just earn $100,000 a year, I'd be so happy. And then, of course, here I am a couple of years later, melting down because I'm not making a couple of $100,000 a year. And yeah, so I had a like, oh my God, I'm not enjoying my business. This is actually like the work's fine, but I'm not tapping into my spiritual side. And I think I need to rethink. So I started like, okay, I am just going to obsessively live my design, obsessively, and see what happens. And it was in that process that I stopped selling everything I'd been selling. I started doing more energetic work. And then I offered in this new program I made a 15-minute human design and marketing pre-recorded reading as a bonus. Like just to like because it fit with what I was doing.
Yeah.
And when I delivered on that, I got that massive hit of, actually, this is something that I am uniquely powerful in because every single woman on in the program was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, this is so good. You need to do more of this. And so that was just the initial, like, oh, really? Okay. But it didn't lead me to going deep. It was just like, cool. That was fun. And then 2 years ago, exactly, Black Friday, I thought, you know what? For Black Friday, I am going to offer readings, human design for marketing readings. And I'll do them low cost just to see if I enjoy doing this work. And I did have a barrier up because for a couple of my really high level clients, I'd done full human design readings and I'd taken hours and hours and hours to pull that together.
Yeah.
So I had this perception that there was too much work involved. Like it was just going to take me too much time. This is not something I ever want to offer because it's so time consuming. Uh, so that was my baggage that I brought in. But I'm like, no, I'm going to do these five. And as I did them, and they sold out, by the way, super quick after I'd been struggling to have
Mm.
people say yes to me. So that was the first, like, every time I talk about human design and marketing, people say yes to me. That's
Yeah.
a massive sign. And then I did the readings, and I think as I did them, I started to systemize the way I did them. So I was finding ways to make it more efficient.
Yeah.
I probably had mostly generators say they wanted these readings, so I'd, have the generator and the ManyGen page ready to go. And then, yeah, then this it's so funny we're talking now because it was 2 years ago, and then after that, I'm still like, well, I'll just like make this more of what I do. It's not going to be my focus, but I can add this in. Like I had a business coaching mastermind. I'm like, in my mastermind next year, I'll add a reading in. So I started to think about it like that. But in between Christmas and New Year this 2 years ago, I went to the beach before work one morning. I wasn't feeling all that inspired, but it was a Capricorn new moon, and I'm like, I'm just going to go and journal and feel into whatever spirit wants to connect me to. And I got down to the beach, and as I walked, I came across not hundreds, but thousands of white butterflies. They were just like
Yeah.
surrounding me. And that was like the first thing I was like, that is so like I've never seen that many butterflies in my life, let alone all together at once. Then I came back to my towel to sit down, and there's like 50 bees flying around me. Yeah, so I Googled what does white butterflies and
Yeah.
what do bees mean, and the white buff butterflies meant surrendering to a transformation that's trying to come through. And the bees were, it's going to be hard work, but you're going to build a community and it's going to be worth it. And I just knew, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what's trying to come through. And I'm going
Yeah.
to, I left the beach a different person. Like, holy, I sat there and wrote my business strategy on the beach. I'm like, this is what I need to do. I need to own this space. I need to develop my IP. I need to do, like, I had the whole plan done in 10 minutes. And then I just left the beach going, all right, we're off. This is what we're doing now. So that was when I went all the way in. I didn't have the words human design for marketing then, but that happened within a couple of weeks.
What two beautiful, can I just say there? Like, I just got a hit then. Butterfly and a bee,
Yeah.
reflector and a generator.
Oh, that's so
Like, have to
cool.
think about it. Like, you just go, you white
Oh,
butterfly, completely open, completely white. But then
yeah.
you've got the bee, which represents the, the hum hum
Worky
of life, the
bee.
hummy yummy in your tummy, the big
Yeah.
sacral response to life, the
Yeah.
populator.
Ooh.
Ah, sorry, that was what I was like, oh my gosh,
Love that.
incredible.
I love that. And I always, I mean, probably since then more than ever, I really find that the universe sends animals to talk to me. It's just, it's now a thing that I can almost rely on that when
Yeah.
there's an animal that there's a meaning.
I love when we open up and we're receptive and we acknowledge it, we get more.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, so you are listening. Okay, how about this one? How about this one? Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
just naturally flows. And I love hearing what you're saying there because we're naturally gifted. And I guess we know this now when we start to feel it. And we feel it in the body of how it lights us up in different
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
And, just a little bit from my end there about, you get into human design. And I see a lot of people get into human design. They're, oh, this is going to be my business now. But
Yeah.
then it's something that we're passionate and excited about, but can we just solely do human design, or is that going to become like, ugh? Because I don't know about you, but for me, I started to
Yeah.
lose my passion for it because my passion actually lies outside of human design,
Yeah.
but I can bring human design in with
It
it.
helps. Yeah. And
Yeah, because
to this day, you're right with me as well. Like, really, I'm a business coach. I'm a business coach. I'm a really good business coach. And this is an incredible tool.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I got chilies. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's an incredible tool that is helping so many find more clarity in their own mission and in their marketing expression, like how to show up and be that full, amplified, brilliant human that attracts the right opportunities. That's really what it is doing for me in my business and my clients.
I get tingles. I love it when people you feel their I'm gonna say power, but it does sound a bit wanky, but they
Mhm.
step into who they are and it's like, oh, here they come. Like it's just
Yeah,
all these shards that we've scattered as we do throughout the course of our journey of life where we just
yeah.
disregard this or
Make them
let go of that and we bring them
yeah.
all back in and we're like, I am me. I am
Yeah.
this. And
And
I'm
I
good
have
at this.
found any, and I love that saying, easy is right. Like I've never found something so easy.
Yeah.
To actually fuse marketing and human design is easy. It is so easy because every piece of the chart has an energetic influence on us as humans. And when we're marketing, we're literally sharing our energy. That's what it is. So it just gives you this ability to validate and verify that the things that you feel most gifted in are actually what the world wants from you. And that when you're aligned to that and you're operating in that frequency, you will be felt, and more of the people that you're here to serve will find you. It's
Thank you, coach. I needed that today.
oh, it's
Oh, that
true though.
it is so
You
true, but it's
you
like,
also
when
need all the
someone's
stuff at the
looking
back
you in the
end.
camera and they're like, you're like, whoa, I can feel that.
But look, you know what? It's done that for me.
Yeah.
I think that's why I find it easy. I can talk about it with such conviction because I can look at my own business 2 years ago
Mm,
and the metrics. Yeah, I was doing well, but it was so hard
yeah.
to do well. And now it's like, oh, now I just get to be more me and apply my decades of experience in a way that feels really good and fun and satisfying, and it works.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know we've been going for a while, and I was
Yeah.
sharing with you off air, and I never prompted anybody on this, but I wanted to, because I like to be surprised and delighted, and it's very hard to surprise a reflector. Um, but I didn't look at your chart until this morning, and I'm like, I like to look at people's charts, just a quick glance, and go, what are the top three things that come out for me about this person? And even though I know a little bit about you, I don't really know you. So,
Yeah.
and we've kind of chatted about that, but, and I wrote them down because I thought, I'm just going to write these down because I thought it's quite illuminating.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I'm excited to hear this.
well, you already know it because we've chatted about it. But the first one, what that I did, I was just like, I've got a big old wow here. I finally felt it, like that whole, that unconscious channel of, your 214. It's just going,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, how does that show up?
Yeah.
And the other that I saw was very much about, I've got here your moons in the 55 and the 2. And it was very interesting because they often talk about the lines being very, we can get caught heady into the gate meanings, but sometimes it's that line that can really pack a punch. And the 14 for you, and you probably already know this, but this is what I saw. I was like, well, what's the 14? And it was in line 2 as well. And I thought, fucking Jesus, look at this.
Yeah.
And just because I know a little bit now of your story, it's like,
Yeah.
you can't make this up sometimes of how it kind of,
Crazy,
it
isn't
has
it?
to go through these journeys of evolving.
Yeah.
And what have I got here as well? Because the 2 and the 14 are in your design Saturn and your design Mars. That's why I thought, oh, your design Mars, which is in, I know it's a gene keys thing, but
Yeah.
core
Okay.
wound.
All wound. Yeah. Okay. Let me respond to some of the
Yes.
things that you've just said. So firstly, having the channel of the beat is one of my favorite things about my chart because it's like signifies success and bounteousness. I'm like, yay. But how come I don't feel that all the time? Because it's not conscious. Just have to trust that it's there and the evidence of my life that it is absolutely there, like categorically, unequivocally, it's there. That's the first thing I would say.
Yeah.
The design moon, it's my whole liberated energy. But when you say line 2, I also I'm a loner. Like in this phase of my life, I live in a small coastal town that I moved to without any friends that I knew here. I live on my own and love my own company. And I am so motivated by having the freedom-based lifestyle. So I go to the beach before work. What I'm not saying, and I'm going to say it, is I recently lost my doggie, and she was my absolute best rock friend. 14 years of my life. I got her when I was going through chemotherapy. And so that was my companionship. And that's all I really needed. And then I can sample, like I just go back to Sydney, where I'm from, every second weekend and surround myself with people. And that's enough for me. So I guess that's quite
Yeah.
line 2.
Yeah. For Saturn.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, Saturn
Like,
and Mars in a channel. I'm like, oh,
um,
okay. The
yeah.
third thing that I've got here.
What's here to kind of shake me up, right? So the other thing is the 14 being
Yes.
in my design Mars, when I first listened to Richard Rudd talk about that shadow,
Yeah.
I was driving and I had to stop because I was so emotional listening to it because it's all about compromising yourself,
Yeah.
which feeds into how I compromised my career, like myself in my career, kept showing up and doing work because it was expected, my ego liked it, and I liked the lifestyle, but I was compromising my true self in doing that. But I also am really have to work really hard not to sabotage myself with things like binge watching TV late at night, eating ice cream after dinner when I need to go to sleep, all that sort of stuff. Like, I'm like, oh, it's so true. Like, these are the things that can get in my way of being my most abundant and
Yeah.
express self. But it was a bit like a slap around the face as well.
It's, subtle as a sledgehammer, I like to call them. The third thing I've written here, and it's got here, ask Yvette how gate 20 feels for her or gate 57. And I've got a note here because you've got the 34 four times in your chart and how it
Yeah.
links up with those 6 ways of expression because it can be quite those transits which would go through. And I thought,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah. Do you know, I'm not conscious to those gates as much as I am to the 34. So I'd love to hear your take on how that interplay works. Would you be able to share that with me?
yeah, well, just looking at yours, when I looked at it, I thought you've got like, okay, so because you've got quite
Got the 34, the 34, the 34, but I don't have the 20. I don't have the 57.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the if when the gate whatever transit is transiting, whatever planet is transiting in the 20
Yeah.
for using 20 as an example, that
Yeah.
gives you that manifesting generator bloody direct hit right up to your throat, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
the amount of gates that you've
Yeah.
got, it's like
Yeah.
woof. And also
Yeah.
then I look down at your 57 because it then lights up those gates in your spleen as well. So I was like,
Yeah.
woo,
You know what? It's so
very interesting.
interesting because my clients, the number one, if I ask them why they come back, like why do you value our work so much? The number one reason is my intuition. And
Yeah,
I'm not splenic. But yes, my spleen is defined quite often by the transits.
yeah.
And the other piece being the 3420 and the power of manifestation. Again, not something that I'm, are we okay?
Yep, we're good. I just had to pull you up. Sorry, I'm listening to you. I
That's
just have to
okay.
pull this chart up because I'm like, I got to visualize here. You're
Yeah,
out of
no.
vision, you know.
Um, I am a crazy, awesome manifester, but I don't believe in my powers of manifestation so much.
Yeah, right. That's
It's
why I
it's
just got to hit with that 20. I think when 20,
yeah,
I wonder
and
what
maybe
happens.
that's because it comes in and out. Maybe it's because it's inconsistent.
Yeah, yep,
That's
yep.
why, like sometimes, for instance, I hoped and prayed that Emma would invite me onto her podcast one day. She invited me to be a monthly guest,
Yeah,
like not to come on as a guest, to actually be on the podcast every month. I was like, oh my God, that's like the ultimate manifestation. It's like completely blew my thinking out of the water.
so good. It just works.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, when I'm on, I'm on.
When you're on, you're on. I love that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really do like, and because you've got so many gates down in your sacral, like, but you've also got a lot, what I noticed as well, you've got a fair few coming out of your solar plexus. So must get a lot
It's
of those emotional
weird.
hits.
Isn't it weird how, I mean, I know it's to do with the channels, but I always look at that center and think, God, you'd think I was emotional when you look at this center, like the number of gates that are switched on. And it's my emotions are weird, honestly. Like I rarely cry. I'm very steady. I also have massive meltdowns. I'm
So
both.
you're not emotional at all then.
No, I'm both. I'm both really like not affectionate or demonstrative, like touchy-feely.
Yeah,
Definitely feel other people's emotions.
yeah,
But on the flip side, when that something goes wrong that affects me and my open will center, like something hits me, I can go into massive roller coaster emotions.
yeah, yeah. Be very, very interesting. See, I
Yeah.
find I've got six gates in my throat, four gates in my spleen. So
Mm.
I get that manifester, splenic manifester. And it's interesting
Fine.
because one of the first things that I ever said, I can't remember, it might have been in the first year of me doing this podcast. It was like I had this, if you could be any type or profile, what would you be?
Yeah.
And I found myself saying, I'd be a 1-3 splenic manifester.
Without thinking, that just came out of your mouth.
That's exactly what comes out.
Interesting. And that's what you are frequently when the transits are transiting,
Well,
maybe?
I get a lot of the, yeah, and it's borrowed energy, of course.
Yeah.
But when you first start, you're like, oh, look at all this, look at all this
I
stuff.
always, I always wish I was a manifesting generator. I'm like, but they get to manifest and have energy. That's not fair. Why can't I have that? I've come to really love my generator though. I really love the ability to be patient and to focus and to do one thing through to mastery.
Yeah,
There's like getting a sore neck from looking at what the next shiny object. And I can really see that even doing the work I am now, like I'm 2 years into this pivot in my business, and I don't see me ever pivoting again. I mean, who knows? But I'm like, oh no, like I feel like I'm just getting started.
it's just a kind of like a stepping up the stairs, not
Yeah,
pivoting, but you're kind of growing at the same time
yeah,
and going, I'll just add on a little bit more. I like that. I feel that too. I feel like there's this sense of self that we get through this journey of figuring us out, and human design gives us that. It's like we can go, yeah, this is some of my gifts that I have, and even look at those shadows and go, yeah, I like them too. Let's bring you all along for
yeah,
a ride,
yeah,
friends.
you're all part of me.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
No, I must, while I'm here, I just want to say a quick hello to Jason Munro if he listens to this episode. Because he's in my one of my programs at the moment, and
Is
he,
he?
he talked about you, and because he's a reflector, and he's like there's amazing chicks I think he might have said down in Australia, and he mentioned you guys. So I thought,
He's Jason's born. He might correct me here if he listens to this. He's born an hour after me. So he
no,
I think it is. I think it's close. So he's a 6'2" and I'm a 5'1". But we
wow.
have our charts are very, very similar. Yes.
Gosh. And
Yeah.
there's another woman in I'm doing a little program called Build Your Human Design Business. So it's not the marketing piece so much as it's just for human design professionals who are in that, like, I've got the certification, now what phase.
Yes.
And I just had an intuitive hit that was something that would be fun. And it is so fun, by the way.
Yeah.
But I had two reflectors in a group of 8. The other one, Tammy, is also born around the same time, same age. So
Yeah.
apparently that year that you were born in, there's
There
more
was,
reflectors than
yeah.
normal.
Oh,
I don't
not my year, but there was 3 windows. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I did that big
Or maybe
windows thing.
Jason just referenced it looking at Tammy's chart. Because there was this conversation about that anyway. But
Mm.
their charts are really similar as well. So there you go.
Yeah, well, there you go. That means there's
Hmm.
4 of us. Because even Amber and I are 6 days apart,
Are
but
you?
but our charts are very, obviously she's a 1-3. She's got, like, you can
Yeah.
look at it from the surface level, but um, yeah, we've got different moon gates, we've got different, obviously, sun earth gates and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
other things, like obviously the outer lying planets are all the same, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And is that the same year you were born in as
yeah,
well? Oh my goodness,
yeah.
that's crazy. And
There's
Jason now are apart from you.
I think it is. So
Yeah.
there's four of us who I know, Jason, myself. There's 2 other reflectors who were born like within 10 or 15 minutes of each other. So we've chatted and
Oh,
just for
cool.
science, just to sort of like go, oh, well,
Yeah.
we have a very, very similar chart, but obviously our life situations are completely different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's very interesting to talk with another reflector who's in your,
Yeah.
on par with a very similar theming or very, that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting
Fascinating.
because Jason, his life is completely like he was here in Australia doing Anyway, sorry, Jess, we're talking about you, but that's really cool. I'm really glad that and that's. Please, can you share that with me afterwards so I can put that
Yeah,
in the
will
show
do.
notes?
Yeah,
Because it's really important. A lot of people do. They get readings and then they're like, I don't know what to do now. Where do I what do I do with
yeah,
this?
yeah.
Um,
And look, I started off by just saying, do you know what? I've built my business to multiple six figures in this space since I started this reiteration. I'll take you behind the scenes. So that's all we've been really focusing on is me showing exactly how I've done every piece of my business and then having time for coaching. But I think that you heard it here first. Next year, I am highly likely to turn it into a proper mastermind or something like that because I have loved it.
yeah.
I mean, of course, who wouldn't love bringing together such like-minded humans?
Right, and it is like attract like. It's like you get surprised. Like,
Yeah.
I got two reflectors. She's like, well, maybe they're attracted to the demi reflector,
Who
Yvette.
knows? I'm like, reading for a reflector up until this moment, though. I'm like, this is crazy, but I'm going to go with it, and I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for gifting me your time. I really appreciate it, and I just want to pay, respects and honor to you sharing your story and who you are and how you've kind of evolved because I love it. I love the evolution of just, how we kind of just manage all these things and sharing that vulnerability really keeps everything raw and real, and it just
Yeah,
we don't
yeah.
need to highlight everything. It's like fuck, yeah. So I love
When you
that about you. I
when you're
love that
born
you
under
always share.
gate 3, you get pretty comfortable with the chaos, talking about the chaos. But thank you. I really appreciate it. You're such a light. I really love this conversation so much. Can't wait to see you in person again
Oh
next year.
yeah. It'll be different. It'll be so different, I think, next year because a lot more of us know each other. I think it'll just
Yeah,
be, I'm just so looking forward to it to go. We'll
yeah,
be more relaxed. I think everyone,
yeah.
we got a
Bit
better
of a
space.
reunion and
Yeah, it's like we'll kick back a
let's
bit more. Yeah.
yeah, I think so
But
as well.
anyway,
Be
thank
great.
you so much. I will
Thank you.
share all of your stuff. Did you have anything that you would like to share before we wrap this one up?
Oh, you know what? Just before we hopped on, I said to you, I think that if we did nothing else but just the basics in human design, it's already enough to have your whole life changed. Like, even if it's just strategy and authority and applying that to the area of your life where you want to grow. Like, for me, just following my strategy of does this satisfy me? Does it light me up? Am I making decisions based on my gut feel? That is so big,
Yeah.
so big. And that I think is an invitation to anybody who comes across this podcast that is a reflector who hasn't got a whole heap of idea about what that means just yet. Just start there.
Just start there. Yeah, keep it simple. I love
Yeah.
that. Take care. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, Annie.